Okay, so strap yourselves in, folks, because today we are diving into a real doozy. Is Fani Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, the one taking on Donald Trump, is she a legal mastermind, or is something else going on here? Something a little bit more self-serving, gifted, or grifter? That's the question we're going to try to answer today.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, especially with someone like Willis who's, making legal history by using the RPO Act, which is normally reserved for organized crime, to go after a former president. I mean, has that ever happened before?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild, right?
Right.
And we've got a whole stack of sources here, news articles, court filings, even took a peek at her Wikipedia page trying to figure out who this woman is. And let me tell you, it's complicated. Some people are calling her a fearless, champion of justice, while others are saying, no, 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 this is all just a political game. She's using the Trump case to, climb that ladder.
Yeah. Right. Well, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a step back. Okay, let's look at her career, her track record. Before Trump, Willis spent almost 2 decades in the Fulton County DA's office. We're talking over 100 jury trials, even led the longest criminal trial in Georgia history.
Whoa, hold on. The longest trial in Georgia history. What was that all about?
She prosecuted a group of Atlanta public school educators. They were involved in a huge standardized test cheating scandal.
Oh, wow. So like a whole conspiracy.
Yeah, exactly. And get this, she used the RICO Act to do it.
So she's not afraid to use some, pretty unconventional tactics even against powerful people. It's definitely a sign of things to come, right? Setting the stage for this whole Trump showdown.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It shows that she's willing to push the boundaries, use whatever legal tools she has to go after what she believes is, wrongdoing. And don't forget, this is the same woman who challenged her old boss in the 2020 election.
And won.
Right.
By a landslide, I think.
73% of the vote. So she clearly knows how to connect with the public and get people on her side. But is that genuine support, or is there something else going on? That's what we're here to unpack. Is this really about justice, or is she playing a part on a much bigger stage?
Yeah, I mean, you don't get that kind of a win without some serious ambition. And ambition, when you mix that with power, it can be a dangerous thing. Which brings us to the Trump case.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a legal battle that has the whole country holding its breath.
Oh, yeah. This is where things get really interesting. RICO charges against a former president. I mean, come on. That's never been done before. It's definitely a bold move, let's put it that way. RICO, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, it's usually used to go after, organized crime syndicates, the mafia, drug cartels, that kind of thing. But to use it against a former president and his allies, I mean, it's raising a lot of eyebrows.
So, break it down for me. What exactly is RICO, and why is it such a big deal in this case?
Imagine like a web, right? A whole network of people working together to do something illegal. RCO lets prosecutors go after the entire operation, not just individual actions. So in this case, Willis is basically saying that Trump and his buddies, they all work together to try to overturn the election results.
Okay, so it's not just about that one phone call to Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State. It's about connecting all the dots, showing a pattern of behavior.
Exactly. It's about building a case that proves there was a conspiracy, a deliberate attempt to mess with the election. But it's a risky move. RCO cases are super complicated and hard to win. Plus, using it in this context is totally new territory. It's a huge gamble.
And it hasn't exactly been smooth sailing, right? There have been setbacks, challenges, and a ton of controversy surrounding Willis.
Right. A judge actually threw out some of the charges related to influencing witnesses outside of Georgia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but Willis is appealing that ruling. She's fighting to keep those charges on the table. She's not backing down.
And then there's that whole thing with her past relationship with Nathan Wade, the prosecutor she hired for the case. It just doesn't look good.
Yeah, it definitely raises questions about her judgment. I mean, hiring someone you've got a history with, especially for a case this big and this politically sensitive, it just creates that appearance of, impropriety, even if nothing actually happened.
Yeah, Roe v. Wade ended up stepping down to avoid any more drama, but the damage was done. Trump and his supporters, they jumped all over this, saying that Willis is biased, that this is all politically motivated.
Well, let's be real, the optics aren't great. It feeds into this narrative that it's all a witch hunt, a personal vendetta against a political rival, and that's something Willis has to deal with.
So is she a true crusader for justice, willing to take a huge risk? Or is this all about ambition? Is she blinded by that and willing to bend the rules to take down Trump? I mean, it's hard to say for sure.
It really is. And we have to look at all of this in the context of another big case that's been following her around the YSL gang trial. This one's been dragging on for months, and it's just as controversial.
So we've got the Trump case, this whole REO gamble, and then there's this YSL gang trial happening at the same time. It's like she bit off way more than she could chew.
It's definitely a lot to handle, especially when both cases are under so much scrutiny, so much criticism. And, the YSL trial is now the longest one in Georgia history. It actually broke the record set by her own school cheating case.
Wow, so she's breaking her own records. But what's this YSL case about? And how does it play into this whole gifted or grifter question?
So YSL is supposedly this violent street gang, and Willis is accusing them of all sorts of crimes, racketeering, murder, armed robbery, the whole 9 yards. But the case has been a mess from the start. Witness intimidation questions about how strong the evidence really is, accusations that she's overstepping her bounds as a prosecutor.
And didn't two of the defendants just get acquitted? Like walked out of the courtroom free?
Yeah, and that's a big hit to Willis's credibility. It makes people question her judgment, her ability to put together a solid case, and, whether she's willing to go after people even when the evidence might not be that strong.
So is there a pattern here? Is she reaching too far in both the Trump and YSL cases? Maybe blinded by ambition or this need to be in the headlines?
It's definitely something to think about, and it's not just coming from Trump supporters. Even some legal experts and other prosecutors are raising concerns about how she's handling things. Some people say she's too quick to pull out the I sue card, that she's overzealous in her pursuit of convictions.
And now there's this whole movement to get her out of office.
Yeah.
Georgia Republicans are really coming after her.
Yeah, they're saying she's playing politics with prosecutions, using her office to target her opponents. And they've even created this new prosecutorial oversight commission that can investigate and maybe even punish district attorneys. It's a direct challenge to her power.
So is this a legitimate attempt to keep a rogue prosecutor in check? Or is it just a political attack on someone who dared to go after Trump?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And there's no easy answer. Look, there are valid concerns about Willis's judgment and how she uses her power as a prosecutor. But there's also no denying that she's facing a ton of political pressure, especially from people who see her as a threat to Trump and his allies.
It's like we're watching a high-stakes poker game play out in real time. Willis has gone all in, putting her whole career on the line with these big cases. But will she come out on top, or is she going to lose it all? It's a total cliffhanger.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a lot to think about. Is Fani Willis a brilliant legal mind who's willing to fight for what she believes in no matter what? Or is she a master manipulator using the law to get ahead? Maybe it's a little bit of both. The line between visionary and con artist can be pretty blurry, And a lot of times it depends on your perspective.
So what does all this mean for you, the listener? Well, it means you got to stay tuned. The Fani Willis story is far from over, and we'll be here to break it all down for you. We're diving deep into the lives of these fascinating and often controversial figures, trying to figure out, are they truly gifted or are they just grifters? It's a wild ride, and we're glad you're here with us.